The day Rute Mendoza lost her home, she thought her life was over. But only a few hours later, on a lonely road at sunset, she would meet a mysterious old man who belonged to the most powerful family in the region. And that unexpected encounter would pull her into a destiny she never imagined. A destiny filled with secrets, broken hearts, and a love that would change everything. This historical romance story begins on the darkest day of her life. Rute had buried her father only a few days earlier. The grief was still fresh, heavy inside her chest like a stone she could not move. But the real shock came when strangers arrived at her door. They carried documents, debt papers. Her father had borrowed money in secret during his final years, losing more and more in gambling and drinking in the city. Debts that were now hers. Debts she could never pay. The house where she had grown up. The small home filled with memories of her mother. The garden where she planted herbs. The wooden walls that had watched her entire life unfold. It no longer belonged to her. They gave her 1 week to leave. 1 week. If you enjoy emotional stories like this historical romance story, take a moment right now to like this video and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss the next story. When the final day arrived, the men returned. They knocked firmly. Rute opened the door, knowing exactly why they were there. Inside, the house felt quiet, empty. She walked through each room one last time before returning to the door. In her palm rested the iron keys to the house. Cold, heavy. She held them for several seconds before finally placing them in the man's hand. Just like that, her life ended, or so she believed. Have you ever lost something that meant everything to you? Tell me in the comments what country you'll be watching from, and if you've ever had to start over in life. Before the men arrived, Rute had secretly taken her horse and small cart to the home of her elderly neighbor, Dona Rosita. The old woman hugged her tightly. "You can stay here," Rosita insisted. But Rute refused. The small house already had too little space. She could not become someone else's burden. "I'll find work," Rute promised. So she left, with 2 bags, a horse, a cart, and the small bundles of medicinal herbs she had spent years learning to prepare. Because Rute was something rare in the region. She was a healer. Her mother had taught her everything about herbs and natural medicine before passing away many years earlier. But her father never liked it. He said herbs reminded him too much of his late wife. Still, Rute had continued learning in secret, helping sick villagers without charging them money. For her, healing was never business. It was purpose. If you enjoy this historical romance story, don't forget to like the video and subscribe. It really helps the channel grow. With nowhere else to go, Rute traveled toward the noble estates of Montedaro. That was where the wealthy families lived. Large mansions, endless gardens, powerful names. If she could find work in one of those houses, she might survive. But the day turned into a painful parade of rejection. She knocked at one mansion after another. The home of Baron Lisboa, the estate of Marquis Sales, the residence of Lady Velasco. Each door opened only long enough for a servant to look her over. Then came the same answer. No positions available. Doors closed in her face again and again. Hours passed. The sun slowly dropped lower. Her hope faded with it. Her small amount of money could only pay for 2 nights at an inn. After that, nothing. Have you ever had a moment when every door seemed to close at once? Tell me in the comments. I read as many as I can. That evening, after leaving the final mansion, Rute slowly guided her cart down a quiet road surrounded by trees. The air was cool. The sky was turning gold and orange. She was so lost in her thoughts that she almost didn't notice the figure walking ahead. An old man, alone. He wore fine silk nightclothes and leaned heavily on a cane. His steps were slow and uncertain. Something was clearly wrong. Rute immediately stopped the cart. "Sir, are you all right?" The old man lifted his eyes. They were kind but confused. "I'm thirsty," he said softly. Rute quickly handed him her water flask. He drank slowly, his hands trembling slightly. Only then did Rute notice the ring on his finger. A heavy silver ring engraved with a symbol everyone in Montedaro recognized instantly, the Sandoval crest. Her heart skipped. The Sandovals were the most powerful noble family in the region, which meant this old man was not just anyone. He was part of the Duke's family. And just like that, this historical romance story took an unexpected turn. If you found a lost nobleman wandering alone in the woods, what would you do? Help him? Ignore him? Tell me honestly in the comments. Rute carefully helped him climb into the cart. "Where do you live, sir?" she asked. The man simply looked ahead. "I'm tired." That was the only answer. So Rute made a decision. She would take him to the Sandoval mansion. She had passed the property many times before, but had never entered. The iron gates were enormous. 2 guards rushed forward the moment they saw the old man. Within seconds, the gates opened wide. They escorted the cart down a long tree-lined road toward a mansion so large it took Rute's breath away. The building seemed to glow in the last light of sunset. Blue stained glass windows reflected golden rays across the stone courtyard. Gardens stretched endlessly in every direction, and fountains whispered softly in the center of perfectly trimmed flower beds. Rute had never seen anything like it. Then the front doors burst open. A tall man rushed down the steps. His face carried clear worry, strong shoulders, sharp blue eyes, dark brown hair. Antonio Sandoval, the Duke. He went straight to his grandfather. "Grandfather, how did you get out again?" The old man simply smiled. "The kind girl found me." Only then did Antonio finally look at Rute. For a moment, he simply stared. If you're enjoying this historical romance story, remember to like the video and subscribe to the channel so more people can discover it. Antonio reached into his pocket and offered her several gold coins. "A reward," he said, but Rute shook her head. "I didn't do it for money." The Duke raised an eyebrow. Few people refused money, especially someone clearly in need. "So how can I repay you?" he asked. Rute hesitated, then spoke honestly. "Today I lost my home." Antonio's expression changed. "If you truly want to help me, give me work." Silence filled the courtyard. The Duke studied her carefully, her tired eyes, her travel bags, her dignity. Then he turned to his housekeeper. "Jacinta, prepare a room. She will stay here." Just like that, Rute Mendoza entered the Sandoval mansion, the place where this historical romance story would truly begin. And she had no idea that behind those beautiful walls waited secrets, pain, and a love story that would change her life forever. Before the story continues, tell me something in the comments. Do you think Rute made the right decision accepting the job? Or would you have been afraid to stay in such a powerful and mysterious place? And if you're enjoying this historical romance story, don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel, because what happens next inside the Sandoval mansion will change everything.